What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Heaven 17, and we're returning to the Luxury Gap, 1983. Thank you again, Han Solo. And the next track, do I have this right? Come Live With Me. It sounds like a warm and friendly entreaty, but it's the kind of phrase that could be ironic or sarcastic. It could be less personal scale than it seems, meaning it could be a larger national or international type of dynamic. Either way, it sounds positive and friendly, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's more to it than appears on the surface. I'll see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Heaven 17. The track is Come Live With Me, and it's from the 1983 album The Luxury Gap.
You were half my age, the youth I'd never seen. Unlikely people meeting in a dream. Heaven only knows the way it should have been. Here today, my tomorrow. Where you lead, I will follow. Missing. Come live with me. Kiss the boys goodbye. Come live with me. Kiss the boys goodbye. Come live with me. Dinner parties followed, and all my age implies. My friends began to talk. I began to realize, if half the things they say are quarter true of me, then how can I eclipse the youth you gave to set me free? There was something in your smile that was hard to reconcile. The time had come to testify to reason. Though years will not erase remembrance of those days, at least there's no submission to heart's treason. Today, my tomorrow. No more shame, only sorrow. All that kissing, there's something missing. Come live with me. Kiss the boys goodbye. Come live with me. Kiss the boys goodbye. Come live with me. Now there's nothing left to cry for, and there's nowhere left to go. Just another hopeless fight, but how are we to know? The strong are sometimes wrong, but the weak are never free. The choice we made we can't evade. Don't try to follow me. Here today, my tomorrow. No more pain, only sorrow. Come live with me. Kiss the boys goodbye. 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 Kiss the boys goodbye.
fascinating tune. So start with the Sonics. It's another one which has a heavier feel. There's still some brightness to the melodies, but yeah, it has this like weight and languid movement to it, and just a bit unconventional. Like when I think of synth pop, which I think this definitely is, I think of slightly different sounds, slightly more electronic sounds, and there's definitely some electronic flavor to this, but again, it just has a slightly different feel than a number of other early to mid 80s synth pop groups that I've been going through. Lyrically, it's fascinating, because, okay, so he says very specifically, he's 37, she, maybe he, but I'm going to guess she is 17, which at those ages, the 20-year gap would be seen as controversial, and, you know, depending on where you are in the statute of adulthood, then it could actually have legal ramifications. But it is weird though, right? Like if you fast forward and if one person is 50 and another person's 70, it's seen as much less controversial, if at all controversial, because by that point, you know, they've both been adults for a long time, and even if one person still is notably older than the other, they're both in the, let's say, later decades of life, and I don't think anyone would bat an eye at it. But 17 and 37 is something that will draw much more attention, and people at different phases of their life trajectory. Someone's still a teenager, still on the path to becoming an adult. Again, depending on where you are, you might technically be a legal adult at that point. And of course, some people are born older, so to speak, meaning by the time they're 16 or 17, they're well capable of navigating the adult world, maybe even living on their own. But in other cases, maybe less so, maybe still, you know, acting immature or in a youthful manner. So, you know, it depends on the specifics, but he seems to suggest that some of his friends are talking about it and maybe, you know, whispering and saying that it's perhaps not appropriate, and maybe even characterizing him in a way that he's like, wow, is that true about myself? I'm not sure. But he's saying to her, like, you know, kiss the boys goodbye, come live with me. I can, you know, I have wisdom, I have experience and understanding that you at your age may not. So I can take you under my wing, which, again, you can read more dangerously, for lack of a better word, or you could read it as in, like, he genuinely feels that. He really thinks that they're meant for each other. But then it seems like over the course of the song, we learn that things haven't been rosy, and he even says, like, don't you dare follow me at some point, so maybe it wasn't the simple and perfect union that he envisioned, and maybe, again, that's partly because he's getting some feedback from people in his cohort that, like, oh, you know, but is this youth that she's bringing to you, is that really what's appropriate, or... So, like, it feels like it becomes more complicated and maybe even enters, like, a negative territory, but he still comes around to saying that she should live with him. So, yeah, like, I really don't know quite how to read it. And, of course, it could be one of those, like, unreliable narrator songs, meaning where, like, the narrator is behaving in a way that the band is actually critiquing or suggesting is, you know, not something that would serve as an appropriate template. Again, I listen to a lot of punk rock where the voice of the song is the voice of a person or a character type that they're actually criticizing or, you know, attacking, but it's done in a way where there's a bit of cheek to it, because they're not saying, oh, this type of person is, you know, not to be trusted or is oppressive and so on. They're saying, like, oh, I love to do this, I love to oppress and so on. So I feel like maybe there's a bit of that unreliable narrator element to this track. But yeah, so it sounds like a relationship dynamic where he's trying to bring her into his world, and, you know, all those boys that are, you know, just as young as you and, you know, aren't taking you seriously and they won't be able to give you what I give you, kiss them goodbye, come live with me. So yeah, like an interesting tune that I don't quite know how to read, even if I think some of the contours of it I heard pretty clearly. Definitely some cool vocal moments in the latter stages. That, like, really big extension and flourish was great, and then there was another long extension after that, so I especially enjoyed the vocals. Again, the Sonics, a bit unconventional and heavy and plodding, but not in a bad way, just in a way that you know, it doesn't sound like Depeche Mode. It doesn't even sound like Human League to me. It doesn't sound like, you know, Yazoo or Erasure or other groups that I now listen to, and to a limited extent or to a lesser extent because I was a single-digit kid, was listening to at the time. Certainly by like 83 or 84, I was listening to Depeche Mode, but number one, I didn't understand them as I would come to do over subsequent years and decades, and number two, again, this doesn't sound like a very electronic or electric type of synth pop. It just has this, like, I don't know, it's not necessarily natural instrument feel, but just it's a different flavor. And so I wonder if I heard this as a kid, if I would have, you know, latched on to them, or I'd been like, oh, that was kind of interesting, a little bit weird, but, you know, I'm going to go back to listening to, like, Speak and Spell, or, you know, the Upstairs at Eric's album or something. So, yeah, it's just crazy to catch up on a lot of these groups that, in the case of Human League and Heaven 17, have direct connections, but also, in a wider sense, were, like, popular at the same time, but were sort of in different avenues or different alleyways of the umbrella synth pop domain. So, in any case, another cool one that I'm curious to hear what people have to say about. Let me know, and I will see you next time. Peace.